This is a state highway. It goes over across Mount Hamilton to San Jose. But in the maze of canyons and ridges of the Diablo Range, this is one of those ways to cross. And that's why it's Del Puerto. This is the door.
The Diablo Range stretches almost 200 miles from Mount Diablo in the Bay Area all the way south to Kern County. It's a sparsely inhabited stretch of the Inner Coast Range, 5 times the size of Yosemite National Park. It's rocky, rugged, and biologically rich, with species like golden eagles, mountain lions, badgers, kit foxes, and California condors. It's not well known, but in a time of climate change, it's becoming increasingly important as a refuge for plants, animals, and people. Starting from the town of Patterson in April 2023, we drove up into Del Puerto Canyon to have a look.
It's one of the most steep, gorgeous landscapes in the northern Diablo Range, incredibly rugged. And it's often windy and hot, but there's this 22-mile thread of blue-green at the bottom, Del Puerto Creek, and willows higher up, cottonwoods and sycamores lower down, and the birds are just drawn to the water and the trees, and it's an amazing biodiversity spot.
Here at the mouth of Del Puerto Canyon, conservationists have been fighting a proposal to store water from the California aqueduct.
Last year we helped stall that reservoir project. It's not dead, but we helped stall it. It would flood the lower 3 miles of this incredible canyon. It would destroy the creek down here. It would cause the road, which provides really amazing access the entire length of the creek and the canyon. It would require the road to be relocated, and it's just really to grow more almond trees.
4 scientists have come along with us to interpret the scene. Adams dubs them a Diablo Range convergence because they know as much as anybody about this mysterious place.
Having grown up in California, I was in love with eagles and raptors and falcons from day one. And back then in the 60s, if you wanted to see prairie falcons, you would come to the Del Puerto Canyon. We're going to pass through a lot of these intense rock formations, just gorgeous things where prairies used to nest. Most of them probably are no longer on the road because of the disturbance, but there's birds, right up into the hills beyond. The old falconers would talk about, oh yeah, just go to Del Puerto Canyon. There's at least 7 nests there. You can find as many prairies as you want. So really spectacular.
Today, Del Puerto is a hot spot, not only for prairie falcons, but also for golden eagles. In fact, the northern Diablo Range, of which this canyon is a part, contains the densest nesting population of golden eagles in the world. Wildlife biologist Patrick Kohler says they have nests every 3 to 5 miles up this canyon.
It's a pretty unique population. Elsewhere in the range of golden eagles worldwide, they mostly use cliffs for nesting substrates, but in this area they use trees, and even trees that are as small as some of these blue oaks are very important to golden eagles.
And these are major predators. What is it that strikes you about golden eagles?
There's nothing they don't eat.
They can take out deer, they can take out other predators, they can take out coyotes,
And they eat a lot of carrion too. Dead cattle in the landscape, that's food. That's real good food.
Everybody knows about bald eagles, but the apex predators are golden eagles. If they were a little bit bigger, they would be eyeing us.
We wonder how the eagles fared after the Diablo Range was hit by the SCU fire in 2020, which at the time was the 3rd largest fire complex in California history. On the one hand, slopes cleared of underbrush made it easier for eagles to see their prey, but their stick nests are far from fire resistant.
We've been monitoring golden eagles in this area before and after the fire, and of the probably roughly 20 to 30 pairs that we monitor intensely, we've now documented all of those territories are still occupied. This is a very fire-adapted system.
Those eagles had to endure other challenges too. First, a withering multi-year drought. during which Bay Area cities sometimes received only half to two-thirds of their normal rainfall, followed by a winter of ferocious storms, causing floods, landslides, washed-out roads, and downed trees. Rainfall on Mount Diablo, which averages 24 inches a year, rose to nearly 70 inches. We're near the end of that rainy season now.
What do you hear the most? Water. That's just so incredible. It's flowing water. It's rushing. You think back 100 years, there were probably salmon going right up the creek behind us.
This canyon is in constant change. It would be in constant change just based on the steepness of the landscape, but it's in constant change from the wind, from the flooding, from the droughts. It's dynamic. This is the definition of dynamic.
What I particularly notice is how open the understory is now, which has opened it up for foraging by golden eagles, by prairie falcons, by great horned owls, you name it. And it's probably also made the landscape a little more movable for even larger mammals like deer. So there's a huge ecological benefit to the fire that came through here.
In a 3-year study, a team from SAVE Mount Diablo found remarkable changes all along this route. Del Puerto Creek switched from brown to green. Frank Rains Regional Park bounced back too and was full of fire-following plants. In woodland areas, there was even a bit of a super bloom. Closer to Mount Hamilton, chaparral had risen from the ashes while still leaving room for a fleeting abundance of wildflowers in the extra space and nutrients provided by the fire. Looking out from the top of Mount Hamilton, what was black and frosty gray in 2020 was splashed with green and yellow. In some places, skeletons left by the fire were surrounded by nothing but splendor. UC Berkeley entomologist Kip Will studied insects' response to the 2013 fire in Mount Diablo State Park. His studies yielded some fascinating basic information. 16 species of moths never before recorded in Contra Costa County, including the elegant sphinx moth with a wingspan of 4 inches. He's currently planning a new study farther south in the Diablo Range.
When we first started talking about it, I said, so what do you think you'll get, 10,000 insects? He said, no, 12,000. And I said, and how many new to science? And he said, well, I wouldn't want to speculate, but at least a dozen.
There's a really wonderful, rich, largely endemic insect fauna in the Diablo Range that is still rather poorly known, believe it or not. One of the things we do know is it has a lot of endemic plants, and a lot of insects are actually associated with particular plant groups, so that's one driver of diversity. The other thing is it really is a central part of California, not so connected to other areas. So you might be able to find more insect species in the Sierras, but they also share that diversity with the Cascades and with the Great Basin, with other areas. A piece of the insect fauna that it's really truly Californian, I think the Diablo Range is going to prove to be the largest diversity of endemic insects to California.
We know from the few places that are known well in the Diablo Range that they have incredibly high biodiversity. Mount Hamilton, Mount Diablo both have more than 10 or 15% of all of California's plants in 10 or 20,000 acre areas. Well, most of the Diablo Range hasn't been sampled, it hasn't been surveyed, it hasn't been explored. And we know that if we go to almost any of those places, we're going to find the same high levels of biodiversity, including new things that nobody has ever seen.
Walking along the 3,000-acre San Antonio Valley Ecological Reserve, managed by the State Department of Fish and Wildlife, Adams gets excited.
So when I found out there was 3,000 acres here that connected from the San Antonio Valley and the road all the way to Henry Coe State Park, that was like a gift that was being dropped down from the heavens to help with that connectivity down the whole spine of the Diablo Range.
It's important to have large chunks of landscape protected or otherwise ready to be able to adapt to the changing climate. We know that species will have to move, and if we don't have those habitat areas available to them, where are they going to go?
Our next stop is a 5,000-acre ranch on the backside of Mount Hamilton. Conservation biologist Joseph Belli doesn't own the property, but he's had permission to explore it since childhood.
I've been coming up here since 1984, I believe. Not much has really changed. It still remains the place that was amazing the first time I came up here. This creek here, if you go down far enough, it's got foothill yellow-legged frogs, rainbow trout, western pond turtles, mountain lion, tule elk, badgers, pronghorn. The pronghorn are no longer here, but one of my most cherished memories over the years has been to see a lone pronghorn in this area where we're at right now. Lately, in the last couple of years, we occasionally get condors over here. It's a really special place, and honestly, you know, I've had to kind of divorce myself from it, telling myself that you're not going to have this forever personally, because something's going to happen someday. It's going to get sold, or so I've had to tell myself, you know, find some other places because this is going to break your heart one way or the other. So
Joseph's got that heartbreak of wondering whether the place he grew up loving will be lost, and I'm just as optimistic that it will be saved. So when I hear about a 5,000-acre ranch on the backside of Mount Hamilton, I think, well, that'll be a lot cheaper than on the west side of Mount Hamilton, and it'll be a lot cheaper than the properties around Mount Diablo, and it'll be a lot more cost efficient to protect these bigger ranches. And 5,000 acres, especially for the southern Diablo Range, is small. We're looking at 15,000-acre ranches and 50,000-acre ranches and 100,000-acre ranches, where the economies of scale get even more dramatic. A single project could create a whole new park. My hope is that, you know, by the end of my saga, I will have walked on every ranch in the Diablo Range, and at some point they'll all be threaded together down the 200-mile length of it as well, in parks or conservation easements or preservation and all kinds.
Next, most of the group heads out on an easy walk to explore the ranch, but Patrick Kohler and Doug Bell opt to bushwhack up a steep ridge. Having seen 11 golden eagles already today, they hope to find out if there are any nests here. When the group reconvenes, Kohler and Bell are sopping wet and all smiles. Adams decides to have some fun with them.
But what's our eagle count now?
It was an awesome view, and the eagle count is not important. It's the ruling out.
The eagle count has not changed, is what you're admitting.
No, it's the ruling out of potential nest tree options. So I was able to get a good view of a few trees in different areas that definitely didn't have a nest. I was able to get a good view of this north-facing slope. I can't see anything obvious.
So bottom line,
there's still more to see.
More eagles.
Nope.
But he got more information.
Could you not have just asked Joseph Belli where the nests are?
Maybe I should have done that. I think I did ask him.
Next time.
It's getting late, and weather on Mount Hamilton is deteriorating. So our Diablo Range convergence disperses, heading up and over Mount Hamilton to San Jose in separate vehicles. We'll come back on a day when the views are grand and spring is in full bloom. California State Route 130 winds for 60 miles through a classic slice of the Wild West, past creeks, meadows, shrublands, and woodlands, from sea level to more than 4,000 feet. The route follows Del Puerto Canyon Road near Patterson, then San Antonio Valley Road, and finally Mount Hamilton Road, up and down its namesake peak, ending in San Jose. The tour can take 3 to 5 hours and is notoriously short on services, so be prepared with food and water. Hikes are possible in Del Puerto Canyon, either at Meniere Day Use Area or Frank Raines Regional Park. The scenery grows spacious in the San Antonio Valley, which can be a hot spot for wildflowers in the spring. On top of Mount Hamilton, the University of California's Lick Observatory is well worth a stop. You can picnic and use the restrooms there, look at exhibits, or on certain days and nights, enjoy a tour. Another way to get to either Del Puerto Canyon or Mount Hamilton is to drive up Mines Road from Livermore. Whether you choose to venture in that way or from Patterson or San Jose, by the end of the day, you'll have a better understanding of one of the most biodiverse mountain ranges in the state.
Last year we came out here and we counted 140 species of flowering plants in like a 3-hour run through. This place is really cool. It has a mystical feeling to it when you really get into these hills and you start looking around and look at that, we found this here. Oh wow, this whole hillside has these rare Mariposa lilies I haven't seen, or wow, a roadrunner just cruised by, there goes a golden eagle. You know, it's like there's so much going on. It's like I can't process. And you go home and you pass out. And that's awesome. You know, it's like how many places do you get that so close to the Bay Area?